Alright, you guys. So it has been a pretty long time since I've actually made another video. In fact, I think it's been, oh my goodness, like half a year. But I am back and I'm trying to actually be a little bit better. And I'm actually going to go back to trying to upload a lot more instead of, doing what I'm doing now, every 6 months. And I wanted to start off by doing a simple video just trying to kind of demonstrate or at least show examples and stuff of how powerful Meliodas has gotten throughout the series. Now, or rather, I say we, but I'm not going to bring up the early stages of Meliodas. I'm actually going to bring in more lines of from the point that the revival of the Ten Commandments comes in. And I'm going to start off by doing it pretty basic for it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with Galan. Now, Galan was a pretty basic of the Ten Commandments. In fact, he was the weakest one outside of Fraudrin. But at the time, he only had a power level of 26,000 when he first revived because he didn't have any magic. But even still, I'm using him because he's more comparable to Meliodas, only in the sense of they're both like brawlers. But one of the biggest things to take away from it is just to simply show how much just 26,000 can do. Merlin, or rather I should say, when she tried to teleport him away so that way they wouldn't all be murdered, he literally jumped miles outside of her radius just to get away and came back. And that's just with 26,000. When he jumps over later to having a power level of 40,000 and his battle against Escanor, he literally, using Ovala, he literally just takes one swing and completely decimates the entire mountain in one swing. And that, like I said, that is just with a simple power level of 40,000. Now, granted, like I said, the reason why I say this is kind of comparable, because like I said, this is at the beginning, and this is what he did against Escanor. Later on, after Meliodas actually regained some of his lost power, he faces off against people such as Gloxina and Droll. Now, Gloxina is very simple. He's just simply, he was the fairy king before King was, and as you can tell, full grown wings. And Droll was nothing more than the leader of the giant clan who had the ambition of wanting to be the strongest. Now, why do I bring these two up? Both of them had a power level. Well, Gloxon had a power level of 50,000 at total. And yeah. Just using his first foreign sacred treasure, Basquiat, he launches it at Meliodas. Meliodas gets hit by it, and it sends him miles away and causes this massive explosion. And Meliodas just straight up tanks it, comes back flying around. And like I said, Droll, being the strongest king of the giant racer, comes back in and is fighting Meliodas as well with a power of 54,000. And like I said, after Meliodas gained his lost powers, he went from having a power of about around 3250 to having a power level of about 32,250. And with his actual demon marking showing, it jumps up to 56,000. So he's facing off against two people with a total power level of about 104,000. And even as this manga panel truly shows, he still is mopping the floor with both of them, quite casually actually. That is, of course, until the rest of the Ten Commandments come in. Now, with the Ten Commandments coming in, as you know, like I said, even Meliodas himself stated at the very beginning that, yeah, he had to split them up because facing off against all 10 of them is basically suicide. But during his fight with Gloxin and Droll, as he's constantly bullying these two, the entirety of the Ten Commandments, outside of Glenn, who is basically trapped in his own commandment, thanks to Escanor, all of them show up at one point and they all try to battle. The reason why this is important because Meliodas, thanks to Grey Root, was actually trapped. And the reason why he's being trapped, one of the main people that first started to take off against him was Derriere. And the reason why that's important because, as Simone Speed stated, with her magic ability Combo Star, as long as she hits a target I can't speak, without stopping or without any form of pause or disconnect from it, basically it's adding 200,000 pounds with each strike. And the reason why that's so impressive is because Meliodas takes 54 hits, and also stated by Mon Speed that he was the first person to do that. without dying. Now, 54 times 200,000 each is about 10,800,000, which is utterly ridiculous. And even when Meliodas tries to take all those hits and store it by using revenge counter, it gets stopped by Escanor, which causes him to literally die. But that's not that big of a deal, thanks to his curse, and thanks to the power of the curse. Like I said, once he comes back, that 56,000 that he got used where he was killed by the rest of the commandments and Estarossa, most notably, of course, who stopped his revenge counter, he comes back without even his demon mark showing, with a base power level of 60,000. So literally just with his base power, no curse mark showing, just normal human looking Meliodas, now has a base power of 60,000. And that is utterly ridiculous, considering just with 56,000 of him pushing himself to his limits, essentially, thanks to his demon marking, caused him to be able to completely defeat Glossen and Droll, but now he has a base power level of 60,000 with with just his base, no demon mark showing. But we're not done yet, because now we enter into Meliodas Assault Mode. Now, oh my goodness. Meliodas Assault Mode is everyone's favorite. I mean, everyone loves Assault Mode, including myself. Like, it's definitely one of my favorite. I mean, it just looks super badass. But the form comes about in terms of story-wise, where Meliscula actually traps Meliodas in a cocoon of darkness and is actually feeding off his negative energy to fight his friends, or the rest of the seven sins. And Meliodas, of course, couldn't seem to break it even with just using his normal demon marking. So the only way for him to actually overcome it was he literally pushed himself to his absolute limit. And by doing that, he was able to enter into the form of Assault Mode. And by doing that, like I said, you see, he takes the appearance, he gets his curse mark, which I hope, not curse mark, but demon mark, which I hope you take notice of. It changes with each power up that he gets. But on top of having his demon mark shown, he has darkness that covers up his entire body, and he has more of a truly demonic look coming about him. Now, why is this everyone's favorite? Not only is it look cool, it is super OP. In a sense, literally the only person that could stand up against him was Escanor, and as you see in this panel, even when Escanor was at essentially his strongest, or outside of the one mode anyway, he was still getting completely one-shot by Meliodas, who has now a power level of 142,000. So yeah, it's nearly double what it is, or sorry, over double, of what he had beforehand, with just a base power level of 60,000, and far superior than he was at the very beginning of the series. And like I said, granted, this form was kind of short-lived, only because, like I said, for the rest of the time we don't get to see Meliodas, but he also gets still one-shotted by Escanor once High Noon hits, and he hits him with the good old-fashioned karate chop. But don't let that discourage you. It is still a powerful form, especially when you realize that later on, as the series progresses, after being put down by Escanor, even while he was sleeping, his miasma was said to be getting stronger. And with that getting stronger, it also led to clearly him getting stronger, because later in the series, with the same mode, he was able to defeat 3 powerful beings. He was able to defeat Estarossa, who stopped this revenge counter with his bare hand, Zeldris, who has the power of the Demon King, who even states in this panel, as you can see, even with the Demon King power, he couldn't move, and was able to completely shut down Cusack, who at the time had a power level of 168,000. So it's clear that Meliodas has clearly gotten much stronger, and we're still not done. Now, later on, Meliodas tends to absorb the rest of the commandments. He takes in all 10 commandments for himself, which eventually, like I said, spoiler warning, I guess it's a little late, but it causes him to get possessed by his father, the Demon King. But in this form, like I said, when Meliodas returns back and face off against the Demon King inside of his own body, while Bond is facing him on the outside, Meliodas awakens to his original power and completely mops the floor with the Demon King. Like, it's not even a competition. And after that, once he gets done completely mollywhopping the Demon King, he unveils to us his new form to break Elizabeth's curse. Which, if you remember throughout the story, it was stated that, yeah, the only way to break the Demon King's curse was for someone to have equal or greater power to that of the Demon King. And keep this in mind, Meliodas has given up the 10 Commandments, because later on in the story, like I said, as you see after this form, we later see that Zeldris has become the new Demon King, because Kuset took the 10 Commandments and placed them within Zeldris, who is now the current Demon King, or rather, who has his father placed within him. And even still, even with in Zeldris' bodies with the Demon King's power, Meliodas in his base form, still at the beginning of the fight, was completely defeating him. And even his father stated, like, yeah, he should have power equal to that of mine, and he's not using it. Not only that, but he's not even using his demon power. So that's still Meliodas in base. In base. And even then, as they standing throughout the fight, his power in Zeldris' body is starting to recover at an extremely quick rate, and he unveils us this new form, which has this armor on him, and in the center, it looks to me anyway, like he possesses the 10 Commandments, like those kind of like the 10 Commandment symbols that kind of remember Mael, if you remember that, if you remember those chapters, and that's kind of what it looks like to me anyway, and it looks really badass. But even still, he had the upper hand for a quick moment until Meliodas, who was still holding back, by the way, but trying to simply save his brother, decided to unveil at least the demon marking. And even though the demon lord had the upper hand at first, once Meliodas used his demon marking, which is still not his full power, allowed for him to actually stand up to his father. And he's still on the even playing field. Now, the manga is still ongoing, so it's not fully stated yet, but I just thought that would let y'all know that he's gotten much, much stronger. Now, even with all this, the biggest takeaway out of everything is simply Meliodas' form that he took on to actually casually get rid of Elizabeth and his curse. Now, what makes this so amazing, like I said, because you have to have power equal to that or greater than that of the Supreme Deity and the Demon King. Meliodas, without the 10 Commandments, just awakening to his true power, is able to rival that of the Demon Lord, but really, obviously, he surpassed. If we were to put that in a parallel sense, it would be a little difficult to say, but like I said, you could really say it's about 400 to 500,000, and that's honestly with a low ball, simply because the original demon, or the center, is kind of theorized to be Chandler and Cusack's power combined, which is 341,000 if I'm correct. And it was stated that the Demon Lord created him by using half of his power. So really, like I said, that is still a low ball, but it's, I think, like I said, it's just something just to, kind of get you thinking. Like, even a low ball Meliodas is still like utterly more powerful than his father. And like I said, the series isn't even done. For all we know, he might even gain a new form so he could face off against the Supreme Deity, along with Elizabeth. We really just have no idea, but I have to say, I am very excited for it. Alright, you guys, I'm going to end the video right here. Like I said, this is just a very broad overview, just something to kind of get back into swinging things, just kind of show you guys just how much more powerful Meliodas has gotten. Said I didn't want to make the video too long, but maybe in the future I'll try and, or once the series is over with, I'll go over it more. I am working on other videos, like for example, I do want to try and do the 10 Commandments versus the Akatsuki. I am currently working on that. It'll probably be a pretty long video, but don't go on that. I'll get it as soon as possible. But until next time, you guys, I will see you, and I hope you enjoy. Sinful Anime, out.